everyone, Amanda here. We're coming up on our 1-year anniversary in January, and we'd like to celebrate you, the listeners, who have made this possible. Every Wednesday of December, we'll be putting up a trivia question on our Instagram and Facebook pages. All you have to do is answer the question correctly and tag a friend. We'll draw winners each week. If you participate in every drawing, you will be entered to win a t-shirt. Each t-shirt is handmade by Rita's talented husband, Nick Vigil, who is a local graphic designer here in Spokane. If you don't already follow us, you can find us by searching our name or by our username at IDKHerPodcast. We hope you enter our drawings, and thank you for listening.
How many times must you be told? There's nowhere that we don't go.
He's got good traction. What's a beautiful girl like you to embrace from a place like this? Winning.
Hello, everyone.
Hey there, guys.
This is Amanda,
This is Rita.
and you're listening to
I Don't Know Her,
the podcast where we talk about women you've probably never heard of, but you should have.
And you will.
So we were trying to come up with ideas to get us going today, something to talk about. And we had a couple of really good ideas. But I said, I've come across this comic a couple of times that has been shared on social media, but I hadn't actually had a chance to look at it. And I said, why don't we just look at it together? And it's a comic by an artist named Damian Alexander. And he has a great Instagram, and on our Instagram, we'll link to him so you can take a look at it yourself. He's really super talented. But the comic was all about, as a boy, how he was sort of taught to be sexist.
Mm-hmm. Pigeonholed almost, like only one way to think.
And it's actually pretty interesting because I think he seems like, I don't know how old he is, but I would say he seems, just based on his comics and the references he was making, that he's maybe early 30s or late 20s.
Yeah.
Because he mentioned Harry Potter.
Yeah. His picture, he looks fairly young. So
Yeah.
if you're older, you look real good, man.
So he made this comic about how when he was a little boy, he was supposed to do a class project on his favorite character from a story. And he chose Matilda. Which is a great character.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole class started laughing at him, and the teacher was like trying to steer him towards a boy character. And he was like, why can't I talk about the character I like, which is Matilda? And all of the girls were allowed to choose boy characters if they wanted, or girl characters, but the boys were only allowed to choose boy characters. And go ahead.
Well, and so he was describing that for himself, and throughout the comic, there's multiple panels of this storyline. He was saying that, as that impression is put in his mind, it's almost like that character, that girl, is unworthy of his admiration. Therefore, it translates later in his life as all women, all girls are unworthy and not, making that mark.
Yeah, they're not worthy of being admired by boys. That they're always going to be inferior or unworthy of that kind of attention. And how if we teach boys that over and over and over again, of course they believe it. And then later on in life, when they become adults, their concept of women is inherently inferior.
And that they're bad.
And that they're not worthy of the kind of respect and admiration that men can get.
And that they're less than.
Yeah.
So that's going to translate into how you look at people, at other women at work, in your relationships.
And what do you think? Do you think that's true? Do you feel like that's accurate?
Well, as a mom of raising a boy, I've seen other women at times, that's not a boy color. This is a boy color. This is a boy toy. That's not a boy toy. This is only for boys, and that's only for girls. Or a couple times my son's been playing with like older boys, and the older boys will purposely exclude the girls because they're like, this is boys only kind of attitude.
Yeah, this is only for boys.
Yeah.
Girls can't do this.
And I was like, hey, no. I was like, if all of us don't get to play, then none of us get to play. Like, kind of, I've always had that attitude. And it's like, we're not going to play this separate these girls to the side kind of game. I don't like that.
But the fact that those boys have decided that there's something that the girls can't do with them is basically proving the thesis of that guy's comic, which is that the reason why men are sexist and misogynist is because we teach them that.
Yeah. I did have, I won't say a name, but another mother that I know, she was telling me about, oh yeah, they're in the phase right now of, ew, girls are gross and girls are this and ugh, girls. And she's like, oh, it's so cute. And I was like, and thinking to myself, that's not cute. I don't think that that's cute.
No.
But it was the boys will be boys attitude of like, oh, they just think girls are gross right now, but they'll like them later. It's like, yeah, when they're objectifying them and there's something to nail later. But yeah.
It's like not seeing girls as human beings. You know, if they're gross and disgusting when boys are young, they're still an object. They're just an object to revile. And then when they become young women with breasts and hormones, then they're worthy of objectification again as sexual objects, but not as humans, not as fully formed, complex, thoughtful, funny humans. It's why we think consistently, why we hear, and some people actually fucking believe that women aren't funny. You believe that because you don't think that women are humans like you.
Or capable. Or maybe even better at something.
Almost always.
Almost. Oh,
I don't mean that to say that like there aren't men who are better at things, but women who are really exceptional at something, it's because they're exceptional. Because they had to overcome, on top of all of the obstacles that a man would face, extra obstacles to be able to get to a place where they're actually admired. So when we see somebody who is, like, for instance, Megan Rapinoe, like, she overcame a lot to become a very revered soccer star. I think it would be interesting to see, like, if you have a little boy who's really into soccer, who is his favorite soccer star? Because I would hope it's Megan, regardless of the gender of the child. And I also think what's interesting about this comic is that we're really working as a society still in a very restrictive gender binary. Like you're either a boy or a girl, when we know that's not true. In fact, I have a friend right now who is trans, and they are married to a cis woman, and they're having a baby.
Oh.
And they were in the Target the other day, and they were in the baby aisle, and there was a little boy with a mother, and the little boy is like looking at all the baby stuff and, you know, picking out like stuff for pregnant women. And he goes, "Mom, can boys get pregnant?" And the mom was like, "No." And my friend was like, "I want to jump the aisle right now and tell that little boy that yes, boys can get pregnant. I am one of those boys that could, although isn't."
Yeah.
But yeah, like we just really have a long way to go with talking to kids in ways that aren't so set in binaries.
That it's so set that it's fact. And there's no other way to think.
And that's harmful not only to women, but to eventually the non-binary and trans folks that are in the lives of those people who believe so entrenched in those gender binaries. And you talked about the boys will be boys thing. I thought one of the best parts of the comic was when he talked about we see their behavior as a gender trait and not as learned.
The whole boys will be boys thing is not, that is a learned behavior. That is not something that you're born with.
When you continuously are inundated with messages that girls do this and boys do that, and anytime a boy tries to do a thing that a girl likes or does a thing that girls do, then they're suddenly no longer worthy of being boys.
Yeah. I was told that a lot in school, actually, in like 6th and 7th grade, because I was very much a tomboy. And I loved And I still do at times. I love looking masculine. And so I would carry myself that way, or I would kind of act that way. Like if we're saying if that's the box, you know, and people are, what are you trying to be a dude? What are you trying to be a dude for? And I'm like, I'm not trying to be a dude. This is how I'm just comfortable in this, you know? But it was boys are only going to look like this.
Mm-hmm.
You're a girl. You cannot behave or look this way.
What's interesting is that girls actually usually do get away with that a lot more than a boy could.
Mm-hmm.
Can you
True.
remember, can you think of a boy in your school ever who wore a dress?
No.
I
Never.
can't even like conceptualize that idea happening in the 90s
No.
and the early aughts in my school. It may have happened in a city somewhere, but you know, the parts of America that I have grown up in and lived in would not be cool with that at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And actually most of the places still wouldn't be. But I have students come to school who no longer live in the binary, and they play with gender and what gender means. And I think that's really amazing and wonderful. And I hope that we continue on that path, but they still face a lot of criticism and bullying and harassment for choices that they're making. Because again, we are really, like, when we talk about the patriarchy, what I think gets lost in translation sometimes is that it's not just bad for women. It's also bad for men.
Mm-hmm.
Because men are then restricted from accessing deeper emotions.
Yeah. And stuffing it all in.
Mm-hmm. They're not allowed to cry.
Mm-hmm.
They're not allowed to feel things deeply in their soul. What a shallow life that would be.
Mm-hmm.
To not be able to just tap into some of the deepest human emotions. So that's bad. Also, like, women are allowed to wear pants, but men can't wear skirts.
Mm-hmm.
So they're also being restricted from half of the wardrobe in the world.
And also expressing themselves.
Mm-hmm. Makeup.
Yeah.
I mean, it's things like that. That's like, they can't have some. I remember when long hair was like a big deal.
Mm-hmm. You look like a girl. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. What are you trying to be? And, or earrings,
Nail polish.
nail polish. I mean, it's like all of those things are just items. They don't define who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the only person who gets to choose if that's their definition, like, is the person themselves.
Yeah.
If they're like, I am doing this because I want to tell you with my appearance that I don't feel this way or that way, I feel this way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is a tool in the toolbox, but the tool itself doesn't have a gender. Foundation doesn't have any gender associated with it. It's just an item.
And whoever decided that colors, you know, defined us.
Oh, I know.
I don't mean to judge, but it would be like super judgy. The people who are just like, it's all in blue. It's a boy. Put trucks on it. Put a dinosaur. It's all just boy. This is what a boy is.
Gender reveal parties.
No.
Oh my God. The funniest gender reveal thing I ever saw. Did you see this one?
No.
It was actually a parody type thing, because there have been so many of these gender reveal parties that have been put on, like, online on, you know, social media, that everybody's like, I can't believe we live in a year where people are like cutting into a cake to find out what sex their baby's being assigned.
Mm-hmm.
So weird. But this couple decided to do a, like, parody of that, and they were, like, supposed to, you know, it would be gas, like colored gas, like smoke.
Okay.
And when it came out, the gas, like, lit up, and then everybody started choking and dying.
No.
And I was like, that's how you do a gender reveal. Everybody dies from it.
I guess one thing that I've done with my son that I've really enjoyed is shared those. I feel like those things that we kind of take for granted, with him. Mm. And one thing that he has ended up really enjoying is makeup. Mm-hmm. And he's really fascinated with the process. So he'll watch me put my makeup on, you know, why do you do that? Or what does this do? And there is a really famous person on Instagram. He's started his own makeup line. He's hilarious as shit. His name's Bretman Rock, and does wonderful, fabulous makeup. And he does all kinds of, he'll kind of contour his face and make things different. It's very artistic. And so I follow him on Instagram, and I let my son see, what that, Bretman, he is gay, he is male, but he does wonderful makeup. He wears dresses, he wears heels, but he also he'll wear, very masculine outfits. He plays with everything around him. And Isai really enjoys seeing that. And we've done our nails together. He loves himself a bath bomb. It's like, those are treat yourself moments. And, just because you're a boy doesn't mean that you can't do that.
Yeah. I wonder though, if his friends ever found out he did those things, if that would change his behavior. Like if he would decide suddenly that he couldn't do that.
Yeah. And that's sad.
Yeah. And especially because he is such a masculine boy outside of those things, wrestling and football, and he's pretty rough and tumble kid. So I just, if his classmates, like for instance, ever heard this podcast and knew that he liked those things, would that immediately mean he wouldn't do them anymore?
Yeah, I don't know.
And that's the thing we need to change. We need to, and I think the thesis of that comic that like boys can have girl heroes.
Yeah, at the very end, it says, why can't we have the boys aspire to be this girl?
Even when she's a hero. We restrict it even when she's a hero. And I think that's sort of what we're trying to do with the podcast, is talk about these women who've been left behind who are actual heroes. Mine today is bizarre. I mean, not bizarre actually, but it's like I went in a totally strange direction.
Oh, I'm excited.
So you want to start?
Yeah, let's get it going.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about Abbye Pudgy Stockton.
Oh, I have no idea. No clue who she is.
And what I find real interesting right away is the spelling of her first name.
How do you spell it?
So my wife's name is Abbye, and she is Abbye, and lots of people want to misspell her name.
They want to EY it, yeah.
Or just Y.
Okay.
Or they think that she's short for Abigail, which she's not. She's just straight up Abbye. And this woman is also a straight up Abbye, and it's Abbye.
Never seen it like that.
I've never seen it.
Okay.
So Abbye was a professional strongwoman and the forebearer of modern female bodybuilding.
Okay. This is definitely not a topic we've talked about.
No, and not a topic I had thought I would. And I'll get to
Speaking of something that they feel only boys can do.
Oh, we're going to get there.
Okay.
So I'm glad we talked about that comic, because it actually, I think, plays really well into what sort of the complication of Abby's narrative. So Abbye was born Abbyville on August 11th, 1917, somewhere in California. I didn't have a ton of information about her early life or even her parents' names.
Yeah.
But I know that she had a brother, and the only reason I know that is because he was still alive when she died. They moved to Santa Monica when Abbye was around 7, and she recalled that they spent a lot of time as a family at the beach near their home, and her mother taught her how to swim in the Pacific Ocean wearing a pair of water wings.
Oh,
like the arm.
That sounds picturesque.
It does. And she actually said that that was probably one of the things that sort of sparked her interest in muscles, because
Really?
you have so much resistance in the ocean as it is, and then you've got these things on your arms that are like pushing your arm back, and so you have to constantly fight against the ocean.
Wow.
So she talked about that being like probably the first time it really
like kind of hit her mind.
Her father gave her the nickname Pudgy when she was a girl, because she was, I guess, a little rounder.
Okay. We don't have to nickname it and tease it.
And the thing is that the nickname stuck, and that's like what everybody called her.
Jeez.
And
did she ever mention that it was okay with her, or did she not like it, or?
You know that thing that people do where they're like, oh, it was a different time, and it was just, it was funny. That's what that felt like to me, because I used, for most of my research, I actually used an article from 1992.
Okay.
about her, and it was from a journal, like an academic journal called Iron Game History, that was started by a professor at the University of Texas, Austin, named Dr. Jan Todd.
Okay.
Because she herself is a power lifter.
Okay. Whoa. Okay.
Yeah. Can you imagine if your professor was a power lifter? It's like such a like strange image in my head. Like my image of a professor is not a power
Not
lifter.
a power lifter.
So that article is written in 1992, which is a long time ago, honestly.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't even 10 years old in 1992.
It's over 20 years ago.
And so already you know that the perceptions of women and gender and whatever, even in 1992, are far behind the way we think today.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole thing has like layers of stuff we couldn't unpack on the podcast. But I will say that it came across to me like everybody was cool with the nickname.
Okay.
But I don't think that's actually true. It doesn't even appear that she was overweight, or maybe like she was like, you know how some kids are just chubby when they're children and then
Because they're children.
and then they grow up and they're not.
Yeah.
So she, I think, might have been like a little rounder cheeked as a child, but when she was a teen, and this was in this article, so she was 5 feet 2 inches and 112 pounds.
That's fairly small.
That's really small.
Yeah.
And so they still called her Pudgy.
Okay.
And I can only imagine that would internalize a lot of body image problems.
Yeah.
Even if they didn't have the language for what that was, I would imagine it had some influence.
Yes.
So during her senior year of high school, she began dating a young man named Les Stockton. And the two were extremely close and spent a lot of time together. And he was pretty athletic. He eventually enrolled in the Air Force. He liked to work out on the beach in Santa Monica. When Abbye was 19, she was hired to be a telephone operator while Les was a student at UCLA. And after working at the phone company for a few years, Abbye noticed that being sedentary all day long had caused her to gain some weight.
Okay.
She had put on about 30 pounds. But I also think you were turning into a woman then. You know that difference between teenager and when you become a woman?
Yeah.
You just fill out in places.
Mm-hmm.
But she didn't want these extra pounds. And she decided to start exercising. This is why I think there was a little bit of like that nickname probably created some problems for her.
Yeah.
So I guess Les really encouraged her to start exercising, which is another thing that I was like, You wrote that in like 1992, and that feels a little dirty now in 2019. And he bought her a pair of dumbbells and some kind of exercise program. I don't know what that was in like the 30s.
Yeah. Well, there's probably some like routine.
Yeah.
Like, it's the same as how we now can buy, DVDs of, I don't know, Tybo and things like that. Yes, I dropped the Tybo on you.
I dropped Tybo in like episode 2, I think, of the entire, and everybody was like, Tybo, really? I was like, I'm sorry. It was the only thing that came to my mind. I did Tybo in high school.
I love Tybo. I still have it in my home.
So she had some kind of exercise program, but she did not like it. She
Okay.
liked the dumbbells, but she didn't like the training thing. She was like, this is boring. I don't like it. She did, however, start to realize that she liked acrobatic stuff.
Okay.
So in the summer of 1939, she began to commit to basically what we would now call weightlifting and bodybuilding.
Okay.
She would like to lift weights, and she wanted to become able to like hold up her body weight. She liked more of like the gymnastics type stuff.
Yeah.
And that requires a lot of upper body strength. So at the same time, down at the Santa Monica beach, close to where the pier is, the parks department had set up a platform and gymnastic tools like rings and high bars. And all of these people would go down and lift weights there, and they would train there. And then they would also, on this little platform that had been put up, sort of put on shows
Okay.
where they would like do little tricks for passersby and stuff. And this area became known as Muscle Beach.
Heard of Muscle Beach?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I did too. But my association with it was a different beach, and there's a reason for that comes later. So every afternoon, she actually worked split shifts at the telephone company. So she would work in the morning, and then she would come back in the evening.
Okay.
So she had her afternoons free. So she would go down to the beach on the afternoons, and she would lift with her boyfriend Les and a few other men. And at the time, there were just not very many women who were going down there to lift weights.
I can imagine.
And the men would start to perform these tricks and stunts for onlookers, like handstands. So she was like, I really want to learn how to do a handstand.
Yeah.
She wanted to do these tricks, so she started practicing daily. And obviously, in order for her to ever do a handstand, she had to have more upper body strength. So she was lifting weights, and then she would practice on doing this. So she eventually had taught herself how to do a headstand, which is where your head is still on the ground. And then eventually she learned how to do a handstand, which is where you push yourself up so nothing is touching the ground but your hands.
Wow. I've never done a handstand in my life.
And I love Patty McGee. She did the handstand on a
skateboard.
skateboard. But she wasn't satisfied with just being able to do a handstand. She was like, no, now I've conquered this. I want to do more. And she told Iron Game History in 1992 that this was, quote, the summer that I learned to do handstands was the first time that I was able to hold Johnny Komov in a low handstand while Don Brown did a handstand on my knees.
What?
So she was like in a squat position so that she had more center of gravity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then she had a guy on her hands above her head. And then another guy is doing a handstand on her legs.
Crazy.
I know. This is what I
Yikes.
mean about they were kind of doing acrobatic type stuff.
Balancing and
And those rings, right? I said they were like gymnastics tools, like rings and bars.
Mm-hmm.
So they would be like doing acrobatics and stuff, flying into the air, all kinds of crazy stuff. You know how like in the circuses, they would have the couples where they would swing on the bars and then like hold each
Trapeze.
other. Yeah, the trapeze stuff. So that's what I imagined some of the stuff was about, was like trying to do this sort of strength stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So Abbye was training and performing in, at the time, a women's one-piece swimsuit.
Okay.
But she found that to be way too restrictive for the moves she was trying to do. And I can imagine it was. Like, think about if you're trying to do like stuff where your arms are way up in the air and you're pushing up, and I don't know when the last time you wore a one-piece was, but I can't stand them.
I don't like straps.
So what happens for me is that I actually have a pretty short torso. So when I buy a swimsuit, I have to buy them a little smaller because I'm short torsoed. I have very long legs and short torso. So when they're short like that, then when I try to like lift my arm up, it like restricts at the shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
So I imagine like if you're trying to do all kinds of maneuvers and lift things over your head, and you have a one piece that's like not letting you stretch.
Yeah.
And especially at this time, it's the 30s. It's 1939. Like they
And
did
those
not have
materials
spandex.
were not, I was going to say not stretchy, not giving.
Yeah, I imagine it was probably like
And a
cotton.
one-piece bathing suit, my boob would fall out. Like,
Yeah. So she went to her mom and she was like, Mom, I can't do what I want to do in this suit. And her mom was like, okay, let's think about this. So she found a top that had a built-in bra.
okay.
Like just a regular top, and she tore it apart and used the bra cups to create a pattern. And then she took men's trunks. You know how men's trunks were like little shorts back then?
Yeah.
And she refitted it on her daughter, and that became a two-piece swimsuit
Wow.
that she could do acrobatics in.
Yeah.
So she had a bikini.
Yeah. Did she cause some stirs with wearing a bikini?
Kinda.
Okay.
And what I thought was cool is that she was the first woman to compete in a bikini, and then that became the costume that is still used today.
Oh, yeah. The bikini competition is huge.
in weightlifting competitions, you have to be in a bikini. It's because of her.
Wow. Okay.
So working alongside Les and their friend Bruce Connor, they began to train and perform together, and they were known as the Three Aces. And their feats and performances were attracting a lot of people to come to the beach, but also gaining them some local fame. people just started to hear about them.
Yeah.
Les recalled that exhibitions at the Santa Monica Beach were becoming more and more popular. And this is what he said. At first, all there really was at Muscle Beach were just some kids who go down to the beach to practice doing acrobatics. But then things became more organized. A few professional hand balancers began coming down to the beach to train, and gradually it evolved that regular exhibitions were held in the afternoons on the weekends. All kinds of folks participated in the shows. Amateurs, professionals, children, weightlifters, bodybuilders, and hand balancers. And the crowds were enormous.
It sounds like fun.
What a great Sunday afternoon activity.
Yeah.
Bring your kid down and watch these muscly people do cool things.
Cool thing. Yeah, absolutely.
And imagine being a girl and going down and being able to see a woman do it.
Yeah, true.
So in 1939, there was this magazine that was really popular. It lasted a long time. It was called Pick, and it was a pictorial magazine.
Okay.
It was really popular because photography at that time was really starting to become a popular art venue, but also, photographing and documenting life.
Yeah.
So this magazine came down to UCLA's campus to do a photo shoot featuring the gymnastics teams, because what better way to do like a photography thing to be like photographing people flying through the air?
Yeah.
It was something that hadn't really been done.
Captured yet. Yeah.
So the coach from UCLA invited Pudgy to come down because I don't know how the coach knew Pudgy, but knew that she was doing this stuff at the beach, practicing acrobatics. So even though the photo shoot was supposed to be about the UCLA gymnastics team, it ended up being about her. And it was pictures of her flying through the air between Les and Bruce.
Whoa, that's cool.
Yeah. And the photo was really stunning, really cool. Like it was a full page spread. And so she was flying through the air between these two men. And soon enough, there were other magazines knocking on Abbye's door. Before 1939 was up, she had posed for every local Los Angeles and Santa Monica newspaper and was shot for Look magazine, Pick, and Physical Culture, all of which were national magazines.
Wow. She's getting out there.
Mm-hmm. Universal Camera Company, which was at that time like a really big camera company, they were like, oh, based on this Pick picture, oh, that's going to be a really cool way to show how our camera is great. Let's get these people and do a photo shoot for them. And so they thought Abbye was the perfect model for this. And so they once again photographed her flying through the air into Les's arms. And the ad campaign ended up in the pages of Life magazine.
Wow.
Which obviously was one of the most popular and widely read publications in the country.
Mm-hmm.
In 1941, Abbye married Les. So they became the Stocktons. And shortly after, he was called up for active duty in the Air Force and left to go fight in World War II.
Oh, wow.
So while Les was gone, Abbye teamed up with Bruce from the Three Aces and then roped in two other men from Muscle Beach to practice tricks together.
That's cool.
I like that there's a couple of things I really like. I like that she's working with men and nobody's like weird about it.
Yeah.
And two, I think it's actually pretty progressive of Les to be like, one, I love having my girlfriend/wife come work out with me at the beach.
Yeah.
And two, we're performing with other men that are touching her, right? Like she's being like held and thrown around. And
Yeah.
So I thought it was pretty progressive for the 40s.
Yeah. For not wanting to like keep her, at home.
Yeah, in an apron, right?
Exactly.
So she was still performing tricks, and they were actually invited to do things like halftime shows, even at really big football games like the matchups between UCLA and USC.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so
they're like performers.
They're really legit performers. And they were actually known as Pudgy and her boys.
Oh.
So I like that they didn't even get a name.
I know.
So here's what I want to tell you about some of the things she did while she was doing these stunts. So she became known for a couple of really cool things. There's even a really cool magazine shot of her when she's holding a 100-pound barbell above her head in one hand.
Okay.
Can you imagine holding 100 pounds straight above your head with one hand?
That'd be me holding my son above my head with one arm. Yeah. Nope.
Oh. She would also, one of the things she would do is she would climb up on Les's body and stand in his hands So he's got his hands up above like this.
Okay.
Sorry, you can't see this. And she would climb up his body and she would stand in his hands and then she would lift 100-pound barbell above her head,
Yikes.
which is
Somebody
Also-
hand her the barbell at least. She had to climb up.
I think they handed her the
Okay.
barbell. And another one she did is she would balance her husband on her hands. So now she's lifting the men up. So she would lift less on her hands while he did a handstand,
Wow.
which I thought was really cool.
That's really cool.
And in one photo I found, she is standing on a man's shoulders. I think it might be Bruce. And then Les is on her shoulders. So they're like this
Whoa.
giant human pyramid.
Yeah.
And like, they're just like happy-go-lucky, smiling. There's another, I said that it was Pudgy and her boys. There was another shot where this wasn't like they were just posing for a photo, but it was kind of cute. Like she's in the center and she's got her hand up and all of the men do too. And it's underneath the plane, like they've lifted up the plane. So she's not just like for show, like she can legit hold her husband above her head.
Wow. Strong.
That's really strong.
Yeah.
And she starts to become very famous. And I want to talk a little bit about how weightlifting and strong women were thought of prior to her.
Okay.
So the history of women in weightlifting wasn't positive for women at all. Women who were interested in building muscles were often, they were called strong women, one word, like strong man.
Mm-hmm.
And they were often seen as way too masculine. And they would be relegated to being like vaudeville acts and sideshows and freak shows
Mm-hmm.
as like, ooh, gross, icky.
Yeah. Look at this freak. Yeah.
Right. It was almost similar to how people thought of like bearded ladies.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, well, you're a freak because you have muscles and only men should have that.
Yep.
And people actually believed that women who were strong like that were incapable of being, quote, real women, that they couldn't get pregnant. They couldn't have children.
That is so backwards.
Obviously, that Abbye was like, she thought that was ridiculous that people
Mhm.
thought that. But it's really important to note that that was how people viewed that kind of stuff. Like women were just, it was gross if they did that. They
Mhm.
were intentionally unattractive, that they were unfeminine. And so when Abbye came on the scene, one of her biggest impacts was that she was nothing like that. She was petite and pretty and feminine, and she was considered a blonde bombshell.
Mm-hmm.
And she could also lift her husband above her head. And that was really important because it changed people's minds about who could be strong
Mm-hmm.
and what they looked like. And I think that's cool and important. But I also think that those other women who came before her, and some of them I got the names of, and I was like, someday I want to talk about these women. Because the whole reason I got turned on to this topic is because I have a friend in Montana. Her name is Amber. Shout out Amber. She listens every week.
Nice.
Amber owns her own construction company
Mm-hmm.
and is very strong. And she shared on Instagram these photos of Victorian women showing off their biceps, and they were
Ooh.
enormous. And I was like, oh my God, I wonder who the first professional female bodybuilder was. And so I had done a little bit of searching and I came across those pictures again. Those women were all vaudeville acts.
Really?
Yeah. And the whole like joke of it was that they would come out in these like pretty Victorian dresses and then reveal these huge muscles underneath. And I was like, that's sexy. I like it.
Yeah.
But at the time, people were like, ew.
Yeah.
So
This is mind-boggling to me right now. Like how to wrap your head around that.
and honestly, another reason why Abbye was able to make such a big impact at the time that she came around was because of the cultural zeitgeist that was happening.
Mm.
So at that moment in time, pinups were becoming really popular.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they would show them like working out in their bedrooms,
Mm-hmm.
which was really like a little, obviously, still kind of
Voyeur-ish.
jokey. But also, that was around the same time that obviously Rosie the Riveter became a big cultural icon.
True.
And she's like the epitome of female strength. And her picture is her showing off her bicep.
Mm-hmm.
So Abbye's appearance on the scene happened just at the right time. And it was then only natural that people started to want more women represented in fitness type stuff. So in 1944, Strength and Health magazine, which was the most popular health magazine in the country, asked Abbye if she would like to write for them.
Wow. That's a pretty big bump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Big
Abbye
writer.
began a monthly column in the magazine called Barbells, Belles.
Oh, that's cute.
Isn't that clever?
That is so clever.
And she wrote that column for almost a decade.
Whoa.
And what I found really cool, and I thought you would find really interesting, is that she's talking all about strength training. It's basically what she's talking about, how to do strength training for women, things that you should think about. And she started profiling other women who were doing cool athletic things and how they incorporated strength into that. And she ended up talking to a couple of runners, one in particular who, on the suggestion of Abbye, had started incorporating strength training into her running routines.
Mm-hmm.
So she would have strength days. And she had improved her time immensely.
Oh, yeah.
Had gotten down to a 6:50 minute mile
Wow.
in a marathon.
Oh, shit. That's crazy.
So she credited it to being doing strength training, that it had made her faster and stronger and leaner, which it does.
It does. I can attest to that.
And there were other athletes who were talking about how incorporating strength had made them better at this athletic feat. So she was really like doing a cool work. So around this time, Les returns from the war, and he's seeing how much progress she's made and what all she's doing with this. And he's like, you should take this to the next level. And there were all kinds of like bodybuilding and weightlifting competitions for men, but none for women.
Mm-hmm.
So Abbye, along with other female trainers who were supporting her, they decided to organize the first weightlifting contest for women in the United States.
Whoa.
On February 28th, 1947, 9 women competed in 3 body weight divisions at the Pacific Coast Weightlifting Championships. It was the first women's weightlifting competition that was sanctioned by the AAU, the Amateur Athletic Union.
Mm-hmm.
So Abbye competed that day, and I'm going to have to I had to look all of this up and watch videos because I didn't understand what this stuff was.
Okay.
So I'm going to tell you first what she did, and then I'm going to explain what that means.
Okay.
She pressed 100 pounds, she snatched 105 pounds, and she clean and jerked 135 pounds. Yeah, I was like, what the fuck does that mean?
Well, I think I know what a clean and jerk is, and I don't know what a snatch is. I have an idea.
I mean, I know what a snatch is, but it's not the same thing that's in this time.
A press is a press on your back?
Mm-mm.
Or a press is above your head?
So I thought it was like the kind where you lay down and you press up above, but it's not. So here's...
Okay.
And one of these, I think it's the press, is no longer done.
Okay.
So here's what I can tell. So if you are a weightlifting expert, you just correct us someday. The press is a technique that involves lifting the barbell from the ground to the chest. And there's a pause. And then you have to just press the barbell overhead.
Yeah.
You cannot use momentum. It has to be a straight lift. You can't use any momentum.
When you
or
pull
movement.
up, you turn your wrists, and
You
then
pause,
you push.
and then you push up. So then you bring the barbell back down to your chest and then to your ankles, and you set it down. So again, no momentum. It has to be just straight up strength.
Mm-hmm.
A snatch is when an athlete lifts a barbell directly from the ground to overhead in one fluid motion.
Okay.
So they've got to go up to there and then lift, so they can't stop. They can't pause. It's straight up momentum. And then the clean and jerk is like the press, except that the last movement, lifting overhead, is done quickly with a jerk and not just a straight press upward. And they do a little jump And you can either have your legs spread apart or you can do it where one's in front of the other. And so that means that you can have momentum.
Mm-hmm.
So the straight press upwards without momentum, she pressed 100 pounds.
Wow.
So the snatch, the one fluid motion, 105. And then the clean and jerk, where you can do it with the jerk and you jump and you've got your feet planted, 135.
Ooh.
She weighed 115.
Oh, jeez.
So
She's lifting more than her weight.
Yeah, more than her own body weight above her head. So Abbye won the contest and she took home the prize of $1,000 and the title of Miss Physical Culture Venus. After this, she was nicknamed the First Lady of Iron.
Ooh, I like that.
I do too. Les and Abbye decided to make their passion their profession. And in 1948, they opened a women's gym on Sunset Boulevard. And 2 years later, they opened side-by-side men's and women's gyms, which I thought was really cool,
Very cool.
in Beverly Hills. And so I think that they closed that first gym, opened these men's and women's side-by-side in 1940 or 1950. And then in 52, they opened a second location in Pasadena. And they were not at that point spending time at Muscle Beach anymore. They had their gyms. And in fact, the craze of Muscle Beach had sort of died down and it had kind of just the whole fad of it had gone away.
Yeah. Things come and go.
But there were still people who were really into doing that kind of work. So the whole thing, the culture around it, the actual tools and stuff, the people, they just moved down to Venice Beach, which is now what I know of as Muscle Beach.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that was called Muscle Beach either.
Yeah, like that's like the whole like Venice Beach culture is you go down there to see people in like those tiny little tank tops and the huge pecs.
Yeah. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger like used to go down there and like swim and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that I think that was Venice Beach.
Okay.
By that point.
By that point. Okay.
And even now you can go down to Venice Beach and see these people.
That's awesome.
So in 1953, Abbye and Les had their first and only child. It was she was a daughter named Laura. And Abbye decided at that point to take a break from the gym to raise Laura. And this is also when she stopped her column in Strength and Health. After Laura started school, Abbye was like, I'm ready for the gym again. So this time she went back to working in a gym, but it was Bruce Connor and his wife's gym.
Okay.
Yeah, which I thought was actually kind of cool.
That is really cool. Yeah.
And once again, I thought it was really cool that it's a husband and wife team owning a gym.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's just cool that these men weren't emasculated by having strong women as partners.
And sharing together, doing this together.
So the Stocktons officially retired from all this gym stuff and weightlifting and stuff in 1980.
Okay.
So she had started in 1939.
Wow.
So it was 41 years.
That's a long time.
Weightlifting.
Yeah.
So, and she was born in 1917. So by this point, she's 63.
60-something, yeah.
However, well into their elder years, well into their 70s, they could be found exercising at the beach.
That is so cool.
There are these stairs at the Santa Monica beach that go from the cliff down to the shore, and there are 200 steps. They would take 10 trips up and down that.
Whoa.
Every
that
day.
is a lot. I can't even do that now.
I know. That's 2,000 steps.
Shit.
Even though she won only one bodybuilding title, she's considered the mother of the sport. She was inducted into the International Federation of Bodybuilding Hall of Fame in 2000. During her career, she was featured on the cover of more than 40 magazines. Abbye's husband, Les, died in 2004 at 87 from melanoma. And Abbye Pudgy Stockton died just 2 years later on June 26, 2006, at the age of 88 from complications due to Alzheimer's.
Oh.
So I told you that I used primarily this article from Dr. Jan Todd, who's also a power lifter. And she said this about Abbye. Every woman bodybuilder who puts on a swimsuit and steps up on the posing dais, every woman weightlifter who strains under a clean and jerk, and every woman powerlifter who fights through the pull of a heavy deadlift owes a debt of gratitude to Abbye Pudgy Stockton, who helped make these modern sports possible.
It's really cool. Way to go, Abbye.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed her story. There was another woman I wanted to talk about, but maybe I'll do that some other day. But I used The Legacy of Pudgy Stockton by Dr. Jan Todd, which was published in 1992 in Iron Game History. The Belle of the Barbell by Elizabeth McCracken for the New York Times. I used the Washington Post's obituary. An article by Kelly Twardziak for Muscle and Fitness magazine called Abbye Pudgy Stockton was the original Muscle Beach Girl. The Hall of Fame for the International Federation of Bodybuilders. The original Girl Gone Strong, Abbye Pudgy Stockton. And that's on girlsgonestrong.com, which is a really cool website.
Nice.
And then I used the Wikipedia article on her.
Very cool. I enjoyed that.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I had no idea.
Also, 40 magazine covers.
That's not bad.
That, like, if you think about who today has been on 40 magazine covers. Angelina Jolie.
Probably
Beyonce.
Jennifer Aniston, maybe.
Yeah, it's like people that everybody knows about.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had never heard of Abbye Pudgy Stockton before.
Me neither.
Anyway.
That was great.
And you're going to love the pictures.
That's what I was thinking of. I was like, I want to see a picture of her flying through the air. That's what I want to see.
I couldn't find any of the ones of her flying through the air. I found all of the ones of her doing handstands and headstands and barbell lifts and holding men above her head. Found tons of those. But I didn't see one of her like flying through the air. And I want to see that one too.
I want to see her.
Maybe when you do the post, you'll be able to find one.
Alrighty. My turn?
Yes. I want to hear who you've got.
Alrighty. So I also have today an athlete. So we're on the same train again. I don't know why this happens. Today I'm going to talk about Lorena Ramírez.
I don't know her.
She is an ultra marathoner and the fastest woman in Mexico.
Ooh.
Which, if you guys already know, me and Amanda are avid fans of running.
Yes.
We do. We actually just started kind of running again, which is, well, I've been off the train for a while, but ready to get back on.
Yeah, and I have a plan to do a race every month of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
But my plan is to try out all kinds of different lengths, varieties, styles, whatever. So snowshoeing, try like duathlons, bike races, road races, trail races. Like, I'm just going to do it all.
So Lorena was born January 1st, 1995.
A New Year's baby.
A New Year's baby, yes.
What did you say?
95.
1995. So she's obviously still alive.
She's very, very young and very, very alive.
Way younger than me.
So Lorena is from one of the most elusive indigenous tribes in the world. Her people are called the Raramuri.
Oh, I know a little bit about this.
They live deep in the canyons of Guachochi, Chihuahua, Mexico, in an area they call the Sierra Tarahumara. And one thing I heard, like they call them the people of the Tarahumara and then the Raramuri. They, as a people, prefer to be called the Raramuri because that other name was a name that the Spanish conquistadors gave them.
Oh.
And when they were tearing everything apart. And so it's got a connotation that's not positive for them.
Yeah.
And so when I say deep in the canyons, I mean these canyons and mountains are massive. It's bigger than anything that we've seen in the States. Like think of the Colorado mountains and double it. Like just huge.
Is it like the Canadian Rockies?
Bigger.
Oh
like
my gosh.
just massive. I've never seen anything like it. I had no idea there were mountains like that in Mexico either. The Raramuri people found solace and protection in those canyons during the conquest of Cortez. They've remained there for hundreds of years. They're also a tribe of people that I think the only one in the world that still lives closest to how they lived back in those times.
Yeah, it's like one of those few tribes that has not been sullied by the modern world.
Yep. So Lorena grew up in a poor family. She is one of 9 children.
That's a lot of children.
That is a lot of children. Her and all of her siblings built their endurance by running all over their home landscape, going high into the mountains and working through the network of gorges that are deeper and larger than the Grand Canyon.
Wow. That's some intense training.
For her and her family, running is just like an everyday practice. It's not to train, it's to actually herd their animals. So they're primarily goat herders. They also run to get food and supplies. So from one and also to communicate with their neighbors. So from one area to go to another area. Her brother used to have to walk. He said if he was walking, it took 5 hours to get to school.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And like one thing, and like to go to the store, I think she said or like to go get food was 3 hours. And so they realized, like her father said, we just started running. Like it's just what our people do. We just run because it's easier and faster to get there. So they probably daily, they said they cover about 15 kilometers just on a daily basis. And that to us is 10 miles.
Yeah.
So Lorena and her people actually run these distances over and over, either barefoot or they're in, do you know what a huarache is?
Yes.
A sandal, yeah.
Yeah, and the reason why I know anything about this is I read Born to Run.
Yes, those are those people.
Uh-huh.
And the book is about like a battle between a ultra marathoner from the States, I believe.
It's more complicated than that. There's a whole cast of characters. I think it's being made into a movie right now.
Really?
Yeah. But yeah, I read Born to Run years ago, and I remember as soon as you said the name of the people, I was like, oh, that's who was in that
These
book.
are those people.
And
yeah.
then when you said the sandal, I was like, I know exactly what that is. Describe the sandal again, though. I can't quite remember what it looked like.
So it's a rawhide flat sandal, and it's kind of got like a woven top. Some of them are just a plain flat rawhide bottom with straps that go around the big toe and then around the ankle.
Yeah, it's kind of almost like a Chaco, but flat.
Flat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the reason why I know, when I was first getting back into running after I had taken a break from high school and college years, probably about a 5-year break, when I was getting back into running, I had read that book. And so obviously that was when the barefoot running craze was happening.
Oh yeah, people were all about it.
Yeah, and I bought those dumb looking foot shoes.
Yep.
I don't even remember what they were called.
They look like little monkey feet.
Yeah, and that's what I ran in for like a year.
Yeah.
Until my spine was like, you're crushing me.
You're not a rah-rah Murray.
Exactly. And so then I switched to regular shoes, and it's been much better since.
Nice. I always admired those foot shoes. I wanted some. I just didn't have the money for them.
Yeah, I don't recommend it unless you want to have back surgery.
No thanks. And also, besides the huaraches, the girls actually wear traditional rah-rah Murray dresses. And I'm going to play a clip for Amanda. Unfortunately, I couldn't find anything that was in English, but I want to use this more as a visual for Amanda so she can kind of see what I'm talking about. All right. So Amanda just took a look at the clip that I had set up.
Yeah, so they're wearing these, like, what I would consider, like, really traditional dresses that you see, like, in old movies of Mexico.
Mm-hmm. Real billowy and
Yeah.
light, very bright
They've
colors.
got the, like, collars, like the big collars with, like, the short sleeves.
Mm-hmm.
But she's wearing, like, leggings and stuff underneath it because obviously she's going to be running long distances through the mountains and it's cold.
Yeah.
But she's got the sandals on, and so there's this shot that they just did of, like, all of the feet in line for the race, and everybody's wearing, like, Brooks. And then her sandals are in the center. But it's like her dress is very feminine. Like the way that she looks is very like I didn't understand that what I was watching was a race. I thought she was just like, because you just said that like they run to the store and stuff. So I thought like, oh, she's running to go somewhere. And I was like, why are these people on the road yelling at her? And Rita's like, they're cheering her on. It's a race.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Because even her hair, like she just has her hair like in a low ponytail, like a little barrette in there. She's not even sweating. Like, I just thought
She looks very chill.
she's super chill. I just thought, oh, she's taking a little jog.
Yeah. And also, so her family describes her as she's extremely shy. And I think also from the clip, you can tell very soft-spoken.
Very.
Yeah. And she has a brother, Mario, who often will speak for her because she is just terribly shy. And she doesn't like speaking to people.
Interesting.
They'll have like, there was clips that I saw of her after races and people want to take pictures with her and stuff. And her face is like, I don't want to do this.
Her face is like,
I'm not a celebrity.
I don't like people.
I don't like people. But her brother said she is really, really terribly shy, but she is strong, admirable, kind, serious, and very direct. and that for her, running is just a pure joy. The Raramuri tribe historically has been known for their long-distance running abilities, as Amanda was saying. Their running abilities and stamina were actually like so unworldly that they did a study on
Yeah.
these people, and they discovered that the way that their bodies respond to long distance running, their blood pressure actually falls and their heart rate remains steady, which, I mean, if people jog or run, your heart rate elevates. And if you're doing long distance running, which Amanda and I have both done, you have to really be careful with getting that heart rate up because you're burning more calories and you'll burn yourself out.
Yeah, your muscles will start like deteriorating because
Yeah.
it's like not getting enough blood. And actually that's why I think the study of that tribe is what changed people's way of training for like really long distance races.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking of my friend Brandon, who did the Ironman a couple of years ago, and he did straight up heart rate training. So he had a heart rate monitor on at all times, and no matter what he was doing, he kept his heart rate in a certain range. So that meant if he was going uphill and his heart rate started to go up, he would just slow down because he had to maintain his heart rate the whole time. And that would be the only way to be able to get through the Ironman competition because it is so
long.
much. Everything is so long.
So their heart rate usually from the people that participated in the study stayed about 130 beats per minute, all while running a 7 to 8 minute mile,
Holy cow.
which is fairly low. Like
Yeah.
130 is pretty good. It's almost resting.
Well, and my resting heart rate is super low. And my doctors have all said that that's really good and that it's probably from long distance running. So my resting heart rate's like 58 beats per minute,
Ooh.
which is 60 is like the low end of the normal range. So I'm below the low end of the normal range.
That's pretty good. The actual name of the Raramuri translates to the light-footed ones or the ones that run fast. Or in the early 90s, people from the Raramuri tribes began appearing at races, different races in Mexico, and they were dominating them. They were winning. And not so much marathons because they were like, those are too short. So they were doing 50Ks and 100Ks. And there they could race competitively for prizes. So prize money. I mean, these people do need to make a living and to be comfortable. So Lorena's father, Santiago, was actually one of the people who began running races, and he became an ultramarathoner. And so taking after her father and with his help, she was 17 years old, and he entered her into a 10K race.
Just a 10K?
Just a 10K to try it out. And she won and she finished easily. And she was like, okay, I'll take it a little further. And to quote her, she said, "I never thought I'd be a good runner. I never thought I'd win, but I did win." So she's like,
She's
okay.
surprised of herself.
Exactly. In April 2017, at 22 years old, she decided to enter the Ultra Trail Cerro Rojo 50K in Pueblo, Mexico. There were over 500 trained athletes there from 12 different countries. So through ascending and descending, they're running through rugged areas of terrain. She ran it and she won it. Wearing her traditional Raramuri skirt, her sandals. She had no training whatsoever. She had no water pack. She had no recovery materials. She didn't even have a hat or a visor.
Oh my God.
She had nothing. She didn't even have any compression socks on, nothing.
I just am like, no water?
She didn't. Well, there was stations along the way,
Yeah.
but she didn't carry anything on herself. Which when I run, I
no
always carry water.
electrolyte replacements.
Nothing.
Holy shit.
And when she started that day, like they drink a lot of this. It's like a cornmeal based drink. It's got a little bit of brown sugar in there, and they drink quite a bit of that.
What's it called?
I think it was called bire or something like that. And it's something that they just make traditionally and drink at home. And apparently it's high in calories, it's high in carbs. And so she had like a little bit of that and a banana and took off.
Wow.
So overnight, by the way, she runs and wins this race in 7 hours and 3 minutes.
And it's how long?
It's a 50K. So that is over. So a kilometer is about what? 1.6
Well, so
Miles.
5K is 3 miles. So if you do 5 into 50,
Yeah.
right, that's 10.
Yeah.
So 30 miles.
That's a long ass way. Yeah. 7 hours and 3 minutes. I ran 26 in about 8.
Yeah. Well, I did mine in a little under 5. But I did a mountain one.
Yeah, that's true.
So like those mountain ones, when you're climbing and descending constantly, and it obviously
Elevation
it slows you down.
Plays a big part.
Yeah, like my ultimate dream used to be to do the Bridger Ridge Run, which is I think it gains and loses 6,000 feet.
Oof. Yikes.
So so they're cut off. They have a cutoff point like halfway through that you have to be to in 2 hours, and it's like, I don't even know, like 8 miles, 9 miles.
Yeesh.
And you think like, oh, I can easily do that. Not if you're gaining 4,000 feet.
Well, when I did a run on Mount Spokane, starting in the nice cool morning time, running down the mountain, I was like, oh yeah, this is fine. And then running back up in midday sun, I was like, fuck this.
Yeah, and what a lot of people don't realize is that running downhill shreds your thighs. So that then if you have to go uphill after that, it's doubly hard
like
than it would have been
running
earlier.
With Jello for legs.
Yeah, like it would be better if you started running uphill and then went downhill. Because when you start and you go downhill, that's what I did in my mountain marathon. We lost, I think, 2,000 feet in the first 3 miles.
Yikes.
So you're really going down.
After winning this race, she won 6,000 pesos. And overnight, there was a photo of her in the race. And she's like running over these sandbags that are helping them cross a stream. And it shows her in her sandals, her skirt, and she's running over this water. And it just went national. Like people saw this girl. She became the girl who won this 50K wearing only sandals. It's like nobody had really ever seen this before.
Sandals and a skirt.
Sandals and a skirt.
And how old is she when she wins it?
She's 22 years old.
Okay.
And she beat 500 other athletes.
And she beat even the men.
Yes.
I love that.
And so after her win in Pueblo, she was invited to compete in a European ultra, a race called the Blue Trail. It was a 100K. That is the second highest race in Europe. It reaches a point of 3,555 meters and it has more than 24,000 racers, and they're all from 38 different countries.
Huh.
So it's a broad range of people. She was the first of her kind to compete in that race. She had never traveled outside Mexico. She'd never even seen the ocean.
Whoa.
Yeah. And she goes to Spain. So this race, she would not finish this one. Just a little bit over halfway, she gets to right before the summit of Mount Teed, which is the tallest peak of the race, and her knees give out. And it gave out so much that she had to drop out.
Oh no.
So the next year, she came back to the Blue Trail. This time she finished. She placed third in her senior category. Between 18 years old and 39 years old. She placed 5th overall for women, and she ran 63 miles in 20 hours, 11 minutes, and 37 seconds. 63 miles in sandals.
Yeah, I couldn't do it.
Just a month after that, she competed in another 100K called the Maratón de los Cañones, which is a marathon of the canyons, and it was actually hosted in her home state in Chihuahua. And she ended up placing second in that ultra.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. And so since her journey began, Lorena has run over 15 ultra marathons, taking her all over Mexico. She ran one in Tokyo. She went back to Spain. In April of this year, 2019, she did her first race in the U.S. She ran in Oklahoma. She did a half marathon. At this race, she changed things up. She wore running shoes because it was pavement.
Oh, yeah.
And she ended up finishing 19th in her division. So she was thinking maybe shoes aren't her thing. She says, I feel a lot more comfortable wearing my sandals because they are lighter. When I run in sneakers, I feel like I can slip at any time. I don't like them. Usually the people wearing them are the ones that are behind me. So Lorena also was featured on the cover of Vogue Mexico in 2018. The magazine was celebrating 20 years, and it featured 6 different Latinas on 6 different covers, celebrating not so recognized Latinas and their accomplishments.
Cool.
So I think they had her, they had this other lady who was an architect, they had one that was like an artist and a business mogul, which was, and the picture is beautiful. I'm going to make sure to include that one. And actually released this month on Netflix, there is a 28-minute documentary called Lorena, La Pies Liegros, which means light-footed woman. And it's directed by Gael Garcia Bernal, which is one of my favorite actors. I watched it twice. It's 28 minutes. I highly recommend it. It's a wonderful documentary.
And that's what we were seeing a little clip from?
Yes.
Okay.
And I got my information from REI.com, LatinAmericaPost.com, the BBC, Remezcla.com, elpais.com, and IndigenousGoddessGang.com.
Oh, I've heard of the Indigenous Goddess Gang.
It's a wonderful site.
I went there, I think, for something else. Maybe Lida Conley.
Maybe. Well, she's 24 now, and she's going to keep running. She said, to quote her, she's going to keep running till her body gives out.
Well,
So-
and honestly, women peak in their 30s. Like
Really?
that's when women are the most athletic. Like your best performances happen in your 30s.
Oof.
So
She's on
she's
her
got
way.
the best is yet to come.
I'm really excited to watch. I'm going to make sure to keep an eye on her career because I feel like she's really going to go somewhere. Or she already is.
Yeah.
What am I talking about? Yeah.
I hope that she starts, just wiping the feet with people.
Yeah. She also, like, it shows her, like, in her home in the mountains, very simple living. You kind of saw a little glimpse of them tending their goats, and their home is very simple. And she had all these packages from like Nike and Saucony and stuff. And she's like looking at them and she's like, no, she like just puts them down. So people are like looking to sponsor her and things like that. And she's just kind of like, she's a very simple, very humble young girl and so strong.
Very cool. I want to follow her career as well.
That's my lady.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a new runner to follow.
I know.
Well, we have attached a little thing at the beginning of our episode that explains our contest, but if you skipped over it, I'm here to remind you that we are doing a trivia contest every Wednesday. I'm going to let Rita explain it because she's the one who put it together and she's really good at this.
So we started our podcast. We launched January of last year, so we're reaching our anniversary. We wanted to do something a little fun for the people that follow us. So every Wednesday for December, we're going to do a trivia question. And if you answer and you tag a friend, you can get put into a drawing for a couple of our stickers and a couple of buttons. A lot of people have been asking us for swag, and this is the way to get it. And we announced the winners on Saturday. If you participate in all of the trivia, you might get a bigger prize.
Yes. And what is that bigger prize?
It's a t-shirt.
And it's not just any kind of t-shirt. Like we obviously haven't gone into production on t-shirts yet. And so each one of the t-shirts we make is hand done by Rita's husband, Nick, who is a great graphic designer, and he's the one who designed our logo. So if you get the big prize at the end, just know you're getting something extremely special. It is a one-of-a-kind handmade shirt.
And you'll get the first one.
Yeah. So you'll be a special person. So please participate. Again, all you have to do is answer the question correctly and tag a friend in order to be entered.
Super easy.
So you can find us on Instagram and Facebook for those at IDK Her Podcast. So find us, enter, win things.
Yes, ma'am.
And today I want to also, before we leave, acknowledge that our editor, Lucas, thank you very much for your editing, Lucas.
Thank you, Lucas.
Today he lost a dear friend, his Chewini,
Mm-hmm.
and they've been companions for many years through a lot of ups and downs. And so just want to acknowledge to Lucas that we understand how hard it is to lose a furry friend and companion.
We love you.
Yeah. And we also want to thank Jennifer Finch of L7 for our lovely theme music.
All right, guys.
We'll talk to you later.
Check us out next time.